Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly 1-hour public affairs program here on Catamount Radio. I'm Brian Collamore, your host, and each week we speak with community leaders from the business, professional, nonprofit, and professional, I mentioned that, political arenas. And today we'll be talking about Relay for Life. And later in the show, we have April Cioffi, the superintendent of the Recreation Department here in Rutland, who will be joining us. Our program is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair in Rutland since 1846. And we're looking forward to the 180th Vermont State Fair. Imagine that. It is coming up in August. In fact, it's the 18th through the 22nd this year at the Vermont State Fairgrounds here in Rutland. We're looking forward to that. We had Robert Congdon on a couple of weeks ago. We'll have him back right before the fair. And again, as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. The first one is Relay for Life, which is an annual event here in our area and throughout the country. Nicole Jorgensen is going to join us along with Ken Shattuck, and the event itself is coming up June 6th and 7th, so that's a couple of weeks away. I think for the most part, well, first of all, thank you both for coming in and welcome in. And yeah, as closer you get to that microphone, right. Get right on top of that, the better.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And you are from which area in the state?
I live in Windsor, but
okay.
I work for the American Cancer Society, so I'm the staff partner and that gets to work with these amazing volunteers.
Okay. And Ken, there you go. You got to share that.
Exactly. We got to share a mic. We're good at sharing.
So
I'm right here in Rutland, and I've been with Relay for Life this is year 23.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of experience then. That's great. That's great. So how did this all come about since you work for the national organization, Nicole? How long has it been going, and what are the funds raised for?
Yeah, well, Relay for Life itself is 41 years old this year. It started with one doctor in Washington State, Gordy Klatt, and he just decided he was going to run and walk for 24 hours and raise funds to help his patients. And it just kind of took off from there, and it's actually a global event now. They happen all around the world. So the funds raised from Relay for Life help support all sorts of things for the American Cancer Society. Obviously, research, which is very important. The more research we can do, the more we can help people. It supports screening programs. So the earlier people get screened, the better chance they have of beating cancer if they get something detected. It also supports local programs and services. We have our Hope Lodge in Burlington, which is a free place for anyone to stay with their caregiver if they're receiving treatment up in that area. We also have a Road to Recovery program, which helps volunteers get people to treatment. Sometimes radiation is, 6 weeks in a row every day. That's a lot of big burden on people's families that if they don't have someone that can drive them or take the time off of work to drive them, we have volunteers we can pair them up with.
Did the good doctor from Washington have cancer himself or his patients, you said?
Yeah, he was an oncology doctor, so he treated people that had cancer.
But understood the disease, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Yep. And his whole premise was that, cancer doesn't sleep, so for one night he wasn't going to either, and that kind of took off.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has Rutland, Vermont been doing it?
This is year number 37.
Okay. And we raise money every year.
Yep.
And it goes to the national group, and they spend the money, as you mentioned, on various screening techniques and trying to find a cure. This is something that's eluded our ability to, although I will say that, years ago when that diagnosis was made, it was sort of a death sentence in many ways.
Right.
And I don't think that's true anymore, right?
It's definitely not true. And that's why I think, especially screening, the earlier something can get caught, there are so many new advances. There's pills for chemo now, so you don't have to go through the IV in certain cases, and biomarker testing, which can kind of customize the right treatment for you, has really saved a lot of unnecessary treatment as well.
Yeah. So Ken, you mentioned 23 years. We've been doing it 37 here in Rutland, and you're responsible for getting all the stuff going here in Rutland?
Yeah, I am the co-lead with Richard Vitagliano, and we seem to think alike, so we make a great pair. We kind of have some opposite things, so we work really well together, and it is truly an honor to get to work with him. But yeah, and I help with planning the activities throughout the event. My son is our activities coordinator, so him and I put our heads together and try to keep things going. Mainly, the goal is to keep people on the track from start to finish, and that's where the activities and the themed laps come in. Is we try to. It's a very serious event, obviously, but we try to keep it light and fun as well to keep things going all night long.
Maybe my first question should have been, where is it here in Rutland? Because I think it's moved around, has it?
It has moved over the years. It used to be at the high school, and then it was at, it's GMP, but it was CVPS when we were there, and now we are at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. We're there. Opening ceremonies start at 1:00 on Saturday afternoon, and we don't leave until 8:30 Sunday morning.
Okay.
So we're probably the longest one in Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go quite 24 hours. We're there 16 hours. The teams are. Some of us are there for it seems like a week, but just setting up and everything. It's a lot of work, but it's well worth what we do.
Okay. Do we have a goal each year, or do we just sort of get what we get?
Both. we set a goal. Our goal this year is 200,000, and we definitely think it's achievable.
Okay.
We also kind of we look at it. I think what helps us reach the goal, is Richard and I both go into, is yes, it's a fundraiser, but Relay for Life is so much more than that. So we focus on what it's about. We're there to honor the survivors and to remember those who unfortunately lost the fight, and to kind of be that family for those cancer givers outside of blood relatives, because sometimes that's really what you need. And by doing the activities and all that stuff, and the fundraising just happens along with it. Yes, we do need to raise funds, but we also really want to remember why we're there is for the survivors and to help take care of them.
I think over the years, it seems like, I don't know whether it's a discovery, but there are different types of cancer. When I was growing up, most people that I knew, if you had cancer, was lung cancer. But there's a lot of different, I don't know if it's types or just strains of it. So, Nicole, you can probably handle that question better than I can.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely there's probably way more types of cancer than any of us could even imagine. Breast cancer obviously is very common, prostate cancer, skin cancer. Vermont is traditionally in the top 5 states of skin cancer diagnosis. And this month is actually Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So, lung cancer, there's so many different types. They find a lot of genetic components to cancer. That's what a lot of the research is finding. But really, it's kind of always mutating and changing. And I think that's probably the hardest part about finding a traditional cure. So at the American Cancer Society, we're looking to end cancer as we know it for everyone, meaning people might get cancer and it's just, no big deal.
Like
there's treatment. Yeah, like you get the flu. Sometimes it's bad. You take some Tamiflu.
Yep, exactly.
That's our goal, is to get to that point where that doesn't have to be so scary.
I'm kind of puzzled, although maybe it makes sense. We don't get a lot of sun in Vermont for a number of months, and yet we're, what'd you say, 5th of most
in
serious?
the top 5. Yeah,
top 5.
Yep. A lot of it is in the winter skiing. People don't really necessarily think about it, but the white snow and the sun coming off is definitely, people get a lot of sunburns in the winter. And I think a lot of people work outside. And so if you're going outside to go to the beach, you might think to put on sunscreen. People don't necessarily think about that if they're just working outside. And traditionally, if you're working outside, you're right in the heat of the day between 10 and 4, which is the worst time to be in the sun. So really, I think it's just a lot of farmers out there, a lot of people working outside in whatever industry they're in. And then in the water, if you're not reapplying sunscreen, the reflection of it, I think people just don't always think. They think, I put on sunscreen once, I'm good, but it's not necessarily the case.
We're talking with Nicole Jorgensen, who works for the American Cancer Society, lives in Windsor, and Ken Shattuck, who is the local boss of the group here, which will be having a Relay for Life in 2 weeks. And I'll give Ken certainly a chance now, and we'll do it before we wrap it up. Somebody's listening; they want to get involved. What do they do now? Who do they call? How do they make that happen?
So the easiest way to get involved is we have a website, relayforlifeofrutlandcounty.org. You can register. You can join a team. You don't have to join a team. You can sign up as an individual. Or the other way is just show up that day. We can register you that day. And even if you can't, a lot of people look at it like, oh, it's 16 hours long, I can't do that. come for a couple hours. And if you want to limit your time, my suggestion is we have a luminaria ceremony, which is probably the most moving part of our entire day. You can buy a luminaria bag in honor of someone who has passed from cancer or in support of a survivor or even a caregiver. You decorate the bag. We put them around the track. We light them up at night. There's probably over 1,000 bags that line the track. And then during our ceremony, we read the entire list of those names. And then we do it followed by a silent lap. And it's a few years ago, I was asked to read the names, and I've always been part of the ceremony, watching it. But then when you're actually reading the names, it made it so real.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I did learn the hard way. I was actually reading the names one time and read a survivor and happened to, years of college effective speaking, you always look up and down. And I looked up and I looked right at the person I just read the name and I just froze. Because it made that real connection. But it's probably the most moving part. So if you can be there for that, I think it'll explain the real meaning of why we're there and remind us why we're there. Every year we go, unfortunately the list grows, but the survivor list grows. The in support of, which is always kind of what Nicole was referring to as we're trying to change the way cancer that we know it. It's not necessarily a death sentence once you hear those words. Not that anyone wants to hear them, but
yeah. So again, it's a Relay for Life of rutlandcounty.org, right?
Yes.
I think I got that right.
Yes.
Okay. And again, if you can't make it on the 6th and 7th, but you want to donate, you can hook that in there somewhere too.
Yeah,
right?
you can do that right through the site as well. There's plenty of ways. And, we have different events. The different teams do fundraisers throughout the year as well that you can support too.
Okay. I have to wonder, and Nicole, again, will probably be able to answer this better. The radio stations here, there's 5 stations, and one of them, the country station, is hooked in with the Children's Hospital down south. And I know that there are protocols that are developed because they're constantly, this is their goal, is to completely be able to eliminate the cancer. And they have different ways to do that. First of all, if a kid gets it, they are able, with generous donations and corporate support, to have the family come at no charge, stay there, feed them, all that kind of stuff. Are you aligned somehow with that group, with the American Cancer Society?
Yeah, we as the American Cancer Society, we're the second largest funder of cancer research in the United States, only second to the government. And so we partner with all those organizations, especially because they specialize in childhood cancer. That's one part of, everybody that's affected by cancer. But, obviously that touches everybody. We do a Gold Together program, which is specific for childhood cancer. And so our relayers that come to our event can actually specify that they want any of their fundraising to go specifically to childhood cancer research and programs. But I think it's so special, those organizations that can really provide that to the families, and provide them the ease of not having that financial burden, because especially when it's a child, the parents want to be there, and so they can't work. So I think it definitely is important. We can't do everything. And so all the organizations working together is really important to just kind of help fight and help support our community.
Now, we have the Relay for Life here in Rutland, and as Ken mentioned, you can go on that website, Relay for Life of rutlandcounty.org, and get all the information you need, whether you want to join a team, whether you want to just make a donation, whether you want to hang out for a couple hours and write a check before you leave. You go from here where? So you're in Vermont for the most part.
Yep.
What do you do the rest of the year when we can't Relay for Life?
Yeah. Well, we do. We have several other events as well. We have our Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walks, which happen in the fall. Those are specific to breast cancer. We've got a Hope on the Slopes event up at Jay Peak, which is really fun. That's a ski event in the winter. We've got daffodil days, we've got galas, we've got all sorts of events. So my job is to work with wonderful volunteers like the ones here in Rutland County to help put on these events and raise funds and help give the community an opportunity to support the American Cancer Society.
And you mentioned we have, we're the oldest, and Ken's been with them for 23 years. We've done 37 here in Rutland. Who's in second place?
Chittenden County.
Oh, naturally.
Yeah, I think this is year 34 for them.
Okay.
So next year will be a big year for
And
them.
with more population, I'm assuming that they might financially outdo us, but I'm happy to see Ken shaking his head no.
Yeah, there's definitely always been a healthy competition
Good.
between the two events, but Rutland is, at this point, actually the largest Relay for Life event in all of New England except for one in Connecticut. There's
No
the
kidding.
only one that is larger than us at this point. Yeah.
Well, you must have done a heck of a job over these 23 years, Ken.
Well, we didn't do it alone. It takes a village. But yeah, she's right. Chittenden County used to actually be the same day. So there was a constant back and forth checking to see who was beating each other. And it's always been a very friendly challenge. And they did some reorganization. So they're coming back, but we're still going to beat them.
Good. I like hearing that. We have, a strange amount of pride here in Rutland County. We have this whoopie pie festival that we like downtown. This year it's going to be interrupted by the building of a brand new hotel down there. But we have it's certainly the national record. I don't know if it's a world record for the largest whoopie pie ever created.
I think it is. I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records.
Okay.
Actually, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I know from the hospital that I referenced before, they have, I don't know if it's survivor rates or success rates. I remember one of them being able to go from like 20%, 20 odd percent, and they're already in the 90s. So I know that there's another way to keep score with this disease, that it continues to be better than it was the year before in terms of getting over it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we put out our cancer facts and figures every year. If you go to cancer.org and just put in facts and figures, you can kind of see, breaks it down by state, by area. You can really see the impact in your community. But definitely there's always advances happening, and I'm going to keep saying early detection. So if people get their screenings, your doctor can tell you what your recommended screenings are for your age and for your risk factor. But we also have this new I don't want to say test, assessment on cancer.org called Cancer Risk 360, where you can answer some questions. It takes about 5 minutes about your environment, your family history, and it will kind of tell you the cancers that you're at risk for. And so then you can take that to your doctor and say, I want to get ahead of this. I want to get screened. And by any means, if you've had cancer in your family, just letting your doctor know about that is super important, because they can tell you if it's something genetic, they can keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about who's more likely to get it, men, women, old, young. Different parts of the country maybe have more of a predilection to getting it. I don't know the answers to those questions.
Yeah, and it's kind of all of that. Okay. So, right. I mean, really, it's environmental factors, there's nutrition factors, there's genetic factors, kind of everything. So in different parts of the country, you may see higher risks of different types of cancer. That might be environmental factors, that might be diet and exercise, just in that area, what's more common. So really, it's just knowing your own risk. That's why I think this Cancer Risk 360 is kind of unique, because you can really find out your own specific risks and what you might want to kind of just keep an eye on.
We're talking with Nicole Jorgensen, who works for the American Cancer Society, and Ken Shattuck, who heads up our Relay for Life program here in Rutland County each year. Our event is 2 weeks away by the time you hear this, June 6th and 7th. You can go online at Relay for Life of rutlandcounty.org and get all that more information that you will need. We hope we can urge a couple of folks that are listening to participate this year that may have at one time and then kind of got off it or have never done it. And let's keep that thing going so we can beat Chittenden County, because that's a real source of pride here. Let me ask Nicole, are there things that people can do or should not do that would increase their chances of contracting this?
I mean, obviously, don't smoke.
Okay. Well, that's a big one.
Yeah, that is really a big one, because that was something we have a lot of control over. Limit alcohol intake, keep a healthy diet and exercise, the kind of the basic things for general health. But I think, just limit your time in the sun, or if you have to be out in the sun, wear a lot of sunscreen or, a hat, sunglasses, long sleeves, whatever you can do to kind of protect yourself. Some of those basic things that we kind of take for granted a little bit sometimes, I'm just running out for 5 minutes to do a little weeding, and then it's like 2 hours later.
So in the State House in Montpelier, on occasion, we'll have the American Cancer Society come in and do a presentation about things. One of the things is the smoking, and I don't know what the percentage of Vermonters that still smoke. I used to smoke for many years and just one day decided I wasn't going to do it anymore and was lucky enough to just quit. And I kept a pack of about 10 or 11 of them left in my pocket for a long time to just sort of, I don't know if that's cheating, but you can kind of give in to the urge if you have to, and then eventually I threw them away. But one of the other things that's happened recently, especially with younger folks, are vaping. And this is something that we've been trying to get a handle on. Unfortunately, the manufacturers thereof do make it more attractive because of flavors and colors and that kind of thing. But that's probably just as bad, or is it?
Yeah. And I think anytime you're ingesting anything that naturally probably shouldn't be in your body, it's bad for you. I think they don't quite know enough about the long-term effects because it hasn't been around, theoretically speaking, that long.
Right.
But I think, anything that kids are getting addicted to young is just going to create further addictions when they get older. So, I think I don't know. I remember we had candy cigarettes when I was little, remember you puff out the sugar. Yes. Yeah. So just that kind of stuff that just attracts kids is going to always attract kids. So the more we can do to just educate our children and also just parents in our community, the better, I think.
What about food? Are there particular food items that we should avoid? I mean, I'm always worried about cholesterol and that sort of thing, but fried foods, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know that there's probably some specifics on that. That's not my area of expertise, okay. But I would think just, balanced fruits and vegetables and everything in moderation. I know that there's specific things when people are going through treatment that they have recommendations for, like nutrition. A lot of that information has been done through research and on our website. But as far, I think just having a healthy, balanced diet is anything that you would do for any type of thing like cholesterol or heart disease or anything like that.
And then the other thing that we could talk about quickly, and we're maybe 5 minutes away from having to pull a stop to this, there's different stages. People always say, well, you stage 3 or stage 2 or whatever. What exactly are those stages?
Yeah, so that's the progress of the disease when you're diagnosed. So stage 0, it means like precancerous or like very early detection. And stage 4 means it's metastasized to somewhere else in your body. So stage 4 is obviously the most serious. I think prostate cancer actually has a stage 5. But like stage 4 usually means it's spread to some other parts of your body. So the earlier you can find it, the better your chances are. Doesn't mean that a stage 4 diagnosis means that it's terminal. For certain types of cancer, it's more likely, but for, a lot of cancers with all these advances, it just means they're going to have to do some more aggressive treatment.
And we've had remarkable success with this. I can speak personally from one of the legislators from up in the northwestern part of Vermont who contracted it and went through the chemo treatment and unfortunately lost her hair. And then I don't know why or how, maybe that chemo stuff really does work, or maybe something else, from up above. But all of a sudden it was in remission and her hair completely grew back and you would never know it today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our hope, right? Is that if we have to face cancer, that the treatment works. The biomarker testing, which is, kind of the new thing being talked about, is really, and it's not just for cancer, it's actually for any type of disease you may have. It really takes your own genetics and figures out the best treatment that's going to be the most likely to work for you, which I think in those cases, it's going to be less invasive, but also more successful and quicker.
How old is the biotesting?
It's been around for a little while, but it's definitely been like a big push in the recent years for getting past laws for it to be covered by insurance.
Okay. And how did we determine it before? Blood tests?
I mean, yeah, some of that is, but I think a lot of it was more trial and error of like, okay, well, this one works for 60% of the people, so we're going to try this first, like maybe chemo, but maybe you didn't actually need chemo in the infusion form. You just needed the pill, or, maybe radiation was better, but the biomarker testing can help really save costs by targeting what specifically is going to be more likely to work for you in your specific case.
Okay. So, Ken, we've got a couple of minutes left. Why don't you just bring us up to date again on how people might want to get involved locally? We're happy to say it's been 37 years in Rutland County. We're the oldest Relay for Life in the state and the most successful financially, thankfully. And you've been a great part of that for 23 of those 37 years. So if we're reaching somebody today that somehow missed the message all these 37 years,
right?
How do they get involved?
So, like we said, you can go to the website, relayforlife.rutlandcounty.org. You can register there. You can donate there. You can also scroll down to the bottom. It'll tell you a list of the events throughout the day, like the different themes. I believe the theme list is on the website. And then if there's other events that are going on, like feeder events, those are listed there as well. It also thanks our sponsors because we have some great sponsors out there. So they're on there as well. And then day of, you can just show up at the fairgrounds and there's a registration table. You can register right there, and you can walk around the track. Most of the teams set up throughout the track, and they do different fundraisers all day long. There's lots of basket raffles, food for sale, goodies, all kinds of stuff going on. I think there's going to be some bounce houses. So it's truly a family event. And like I said, it's definitely, I always say it's an emotional roller coaster day. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to have fun, you're going to have those moments where you reach out and need someone to hug, and that's part of why we're there, is to be that support group.
And this is all at the Vermont State Fairgrounds right here in Rutland, where thankfully there's plenty of parking. I'm assuming you use the infield area.
Yeah, if you drive, you'll go into the Dana Street entrance and park on the infield, and then come right up and walk in and just enjoy the day.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a beautiful weather day.
Yeah, rain or shine.
It is a rain or shine event because we always say cancer doesn't care if it's raining, snowing, sleeting, whatever. It's there, so are we. Okay.
So again, that's June 6th or 7th at the Vermont State Fairgrounds here in Rutland for the 37th year, or 38th year now, Relay for Life. I'm just looking at the website, and this is a pretty interesting stat. More than $400 million, and this is as of 2 years ago in April of 23, are currently invested in cancer research grants. And there's about 141,000 patients and caregivers who received information back in 2022. And so, as Nicole said, I think the number one sort of, I don't know if it's a lesson, but thing for you to remember, if you're listening and you're wondering, the best thing you can do is get tested, get screened, try to figure out if what you're all of a sudden feeling inside your body is indeed cancer or it could be something else. And then begin that regimen of doing what you can to get rid of it. Because the longer you wait, especially with something like prostate cancer, the worse it is. And if you do catch it early enough, you can, in a sense, halt it in its tracks, right?
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, well, thank you both for coming in today. Nicole Jorgensen from the American Cancer Society and Ken Shattuck, our local boss with the Relay for Life event. And again, I would urge you to go onto that website and get yourself signed up, or just drop in that day. You'll see hopefully a parking lot full of cars. It's Relay for Life of rutlandcounty.org. And I hope you make your $200,000. I hope you make $250,000.
Right. Hopefully we go over that.
Yes. All right. Thank you
so
both
much.
for having time to share with us today. And we'll be back with April Cioffi, who is the superintendent of the Rutland Recreation Department. But first, we need to take a break here on Catamount Community Connection, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs program here on Catamount Radio stations, and there are 5 of them. You can also go to PEG TV and just put in Catamount Community Connection, and then it'll tell you what show number and who was on it if you ever want to go back and listen to it later. Our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair in Rutland since 1846. And yes, folks, the 180th Vermont State Fair is coming up, and those dates are August 18th through the 22nd at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. We just had Nicole Jorgensen and Ken Shattuck in from Relay for Life, and that's where in 2 weeks, because this will air on the 24th of May, that's where Relay for Life is this year. the Vermont State Fairgrounds. So again, if you want to get involved, that's the day. It's the 6th and 7th of June, and get involved for sure. Now we're going to turn things over to April Cioffi, who is the superintendent of the Rutland Recreation Department. And first of all, welcome in, April. Always great to see you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
We got about 25 minutes to go over a whole bunch of stuff probably, but I thought it'd be interesting for people to understand what's happening in the area that you guys sponsor in the summer. I know that you do the Halloween parade, and I've always had a thing that I don't, and it's just a personal feeling, I don't think politicians belong in it. I don't know what we have to do with trick-or-treating. Well, maybe I do. It just doesn't seem. But anyway, that's not what I invited you to go over it. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if at some point you said, guess what? No more politicians in the Halloween parade. I think that would be great. But it can be fun, too. So I know we have a lot of stuff going on. We've got pools to talk about, other programs. I'll just kind of open that door for you to bring us up to date about what's going on in the rec department.
Absolutely. So one of the highlights that we've been working on in our intermunicipal meetings, which is Rutland Town and Rutland City getting together. Mike Rowe, the director over at Rutland Town, and I have been working collaboratively to pull together a 250th celebration as an intermunicipal combined effort for folks to gather, enjoy some music, aquatics, games, activities. So look for more information on that. We are going to hold that, so you can save the date, Friday, July 3rd at Northwood Pool from 4 to 8 p.m. We've got some things confirmed that are great, like Nikki Adams will be playing music at the pool. We'll definitely have DJ Brett Meyer there as well, so spinning tunes while we have lots of games to play. And then we are actively seeking more food truck vendors, so if anyone's interested, we definitely have that opportunity there. They would need to connect with Mike Rowe, and I do have contact information, and we'll be putting that more out on social as well.
Okay. I did hear a rumor about fireworks.
I hear fireworks is not under my purview, but I can tell you that I think Alex Adams and that Fireworks Over Rutland have been a driving force to make sure that that comes back to Rutland, and that will be Saturday, July 4th. Yeah.
I was amazed too. Now I can't remember who it was on with me when we talked about it. They gave credit to Adam anyway, and that's great because he's a great guy and does some super things for the area. But at one point, it used to cost about $10,000 to put him on at the fairgrounds. Oh, that's who it was. It was Robert Congdon from the fair, and he had mentioned that there will be fireworks this year. And he said it's now costing upwards of $30,000 to hold those fireworks. I know things have gone up, with inflation and all, but I was like astounded that they would have to raise that much money. But he told me, Robert that is, that they're pretty close. They're in the 20s now, and they don't need a lot more money. Not that I'm suggesting you don't. If you are so inclined, please get a hold of Alex. He's one of the City Board of Aldermen, and pitch in. And literally, it could be $20, it can be $50, whatever it is, because Rutland's been missing that for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've done a great job of that fundraising. So closing that very minor gap that they have left will really secure the funds and ensure that we have great fireworks over Rutland on the 4th of July.
Okay. So let's talk about swimming. We got White's Pool.
Yes. So White's Pool, White Memorial Pool, we have opening up in mid-June. And currently this week, we are onboarding all of our lifeguards. We've got certifications over the next few weekends. We've already had enrollment in multiple sessions of swim lessons. There are still some availability in those group swim lessons. Aquatics and learning how to swim is such a life skill, and it's a life-saving skill. Yeah. So we highly encourage, and I know that, our sister city there, Rutland Town, also offers swim lessons at their location. So just making sure that those kiddos have the opportunity to learn the skills that could potentially save their life.
And it wouldn't be my, I don't think I could ever save anybody's life. I'd probably drag them down or we'd both be gone. But it is an important skill to know, and especially, obviously, if you're a lifeguard. So, yeah, I would urge people to do that. I'm really tickled to hear that there's been this intermunicipal cooperation between Rutland Town and Rutland City. I have to say that has not always been the case. There are many who feel that if they're from the town, they're the town, and the city's the city. And sometimes in past years, we didn't always see eye to eye. The town it does surround the city. So there's no more room for expansion out of the city. But it's been something that I think for many years, unfortunately, prevented a lot of good cooperation from happening.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful at the collaboration and relationship that we've built with Rutland Town. Mike's an excellent partner to have in the town, and he does a lot of great things over there. We do a lot of great things here, and where we can complement each other and not compete, but, support one another in this, population that can use that.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking to April Cioffi, who is the superintendent of the Rutland Recreation Department. I don't understand necessarily what the difference is between being a superintendent or a commissioner. Maybe there's a pay difference or maybe there's a staff difference. But anyway, you're the top leader in the rec department, and well-deserved, by the way. You sat for many years, I think, in chair number 2 and kind of watched as things develop. But so I probably should have started this by saying congratulations, although that's long overdue. And hopefully things are going well. I have a shirt on.
I do see that shirt, a National Night Out.
Yeah, it celebrated last year's National Night Out. And again, speaking last week with Robert Protovansky from the DPW, I know that this year it's not going to be able to be held in the same location. They're going to, maybe they've already started to dig up the softball fields at down on Meadow Street, and there will be I think it's 625,000 gallon tank that will be installed underneath, and then the dirt will be put back in, patted down, and then reseeded. So the ability to use that site is gone for this summer. But are we going to have one, and where?
Absolutely. So I can't release the location yet. We are still confirming, but we are in conversations of a new location for 2026. But you can definitely save the date for the first Tuesday in August, which this year is August 4th. So I know that our National Night Out Committee, which is a partnership between, the City of Rutland Recreation and Parks Department, as well as the Police Department, Fire, and they all collaborate together to ensure that it's a great, safe night out for our community to gather together.
Yeah, I was there early on. It used to be at Giorgetti when it first started, and it just, quite frankly, outgrew it. There just wasn't a room for everybody. And then it went down to that, what I think is the perfect location on Meadow Street. The parking might be a little bit challenging for some folks. You got to walk a little bit further. But the area itself really lent itself to being able to spread out and accept a bunch of people walking around at the same time. And I don't know whose idea that was back in the beginning, because it's got to be 10, 12, 15 years ago, or something like that.
Oh boy, you're dating me, because I remember when it was at the pool.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great event. It really is. It especially puts our law enforcement people in a much less stressed condition than some other times when they're out doing their work. I think that's important. In fact, one of the officers used to tell me, when I go down there, people walk up to me to talk, and if I'm on the street doing my job, they're trying to get away. So it really is a great event, and I'm glad to hear that we won't have to miss a year. And then by next summer, hopefully, because Bob did say there'll be a time probably in April and May when the ground hasn't completely settled yet and the grass is starting to poke up. You don't want to be, having a bunch of softball games going on and kind of ripping that up. But if it's still in August, I'm sure that maybe next year we'll be back at Meadow Street.
Yeah, Meadow Street, the project that's underway there, we have such a great working relationship, interdepartmental. So Bob and his team, Ted Gillen, they've really kept us in the loop as they've been planning things and have promised us that the fields will be reestablished to as good, if not better, than the condition prior to. And our Parks, Facilities, and Grounds Director, Tyler Dolan, has been, every day kind of checking in as that goes and really working with them to make sure that the turf reestablishes in a way that is the standard for our softball teams.
Yeah. We could talk a little bit about, and you probably have other things you want to bring up, but the downtown project, which is also underway, people that have gone by at what used to be a stoplight and then turned into a stop sign at the bottom of Center Street and Wales. You'd seen that big, huge construction cranes and all that sort of stuff going on. This will be the beginning of what we hope will be really a life-changing event in downtown Rutland with that new hotel. It won't be done this year, unfortunately. It'll be probably next year at some point when the actual hotel will be at least beginning to be built, maybe built. But I don't know if that interrupts anything else that you have on your plate.
So, like you mentioned earlier in the show, we are the Halloween Parade is a cornerstone event for Rutland City. And I've been in constant connection with Bob again to make sure that the date that we're looking at will work for his construction schedule down there. So we are on target. The date will be released very soon because I've got to get that approved through the board before we actually come out publicly with it.
Well, it's a legacy here in Rutland. I don't know of any other community in the country, maybe in the world, that celebrates Halloween the same way we do. I know it all started way back in the 60s, but I think it was the 60s. And I've been in it before, and then I've watched it many times, some of it on PEG TV, some of it from the side. And it just is an amazing event on a good year where the weather's perfect. You know, maybe we had a little sunshine earlier in that day, and it's not too cold or it's not raining. There've been snowy days for some years because it's in October, obviously. And if you start and you see literally 5 or 6 deep people lining the streets, you know that there's probably about 10,000 people, which in the good old days was half of Rutland would show up for this parade.
Yeah, we have folks who travel in for the parade at this point. And the parade itself is such an iconic tradition for our area. It's been mentioned in the comic books. Like it does have deep roots in Rutland. And I think that the community itself has gathered around this tradition and expanded upon it. You know, now they've got the trunk or treat that happens around that time as well. We do our Halloween 5K, which is such a sight to see in itself because you've got folks running in these incredibly themed costumes on a 5K. I was really impressed to see this one family with a mom running in jeans the entire 5K, and that takes commitment.
For sure. We're talking to April Cioffi, who's the superintendent of the Rutland Rec Department and Parks, and we're going to take a break here on Catamount Community Connection and chat more with April in just a minute. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore, your host for this weekly public affairs program. It's brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair in Rutland since 1846. And 180 years of that tradition will be kicked off again, coinciding nicely with the 250th birthday of the United States of America. So August 18th, I think, through the 22nd this year are the dates for the Vermont State Fair. And I promise we'll have Robert Congdon back in again to remind you about the act that's coming to play and all the ground rides and stuff that will be going on in August. But today we're talking to April Cioffi, who is the superintendent of the Rutland Rec and Parks Department. And we talked a little bit, although it's way in the future, the Halloween parade, and also the downtown event, or not that downtown event, but the night, what is it called? National Night Out. There you go. But 2 other events that are coming up, and these are, I guess we've renamed it, or maybe it was not called. Wasn't it Friday Night Live for a while?
That is a downtown event that happens in Friday under the partnership. But we also offer the 7 to Sunset Summer Concert Series. So
tell us about those.
So we hold a concert series Wednesday nights throughout the summer. Our first one will be June 24th with Satin and Steel, iconic local band for us. We've got other bands coming up, including Gold Dust Gypsies, which is a new one for us, Aaron Audette Band, Energize Big Band, Rick Reddington, and Tough Love, as well as Honey.
And where are the concerts?
So the concerts are held in Main Street Park, which, if you're familiar with the park, had its grand opening last year with the new modifications and remodel to the gazebo. It looks beautiful. I don't know if anyone's driven past there lately, but between the blooming trees and just our folks, the way they've kept the grounds up, it looks beautiful out there. Okay. So again, first concert will be at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, June 24th with Satin and Steel. And then as we're talking about concerts, our historic Rutland City Band, they'll be starting their Sunday night concerts, 6:30 p.m. The first one is on Father's Day.
Oh, neat. I think, is that the oldest band in the country?
Yeah, oldest municipal band in the country,
Yeah. And it's amazing over the years they've been able, because as is true with any group, organization, nonprofit, whatever, business, if you don't continually bring new people in, younger people in, at some point, everybody's too old to do anything or they die and then there's nothing left. So that is an amazing stat that Rutland City Band has been going that long. So they got good recruiting efforts too to bring new members in, right?
Yeah, they've got great recruiting, and it's a great intergenerational experience on the City Band. From what you can see, there are City Band members that have been there for 10 plus years, and then you've got newer high school individuals who are competing regionally for us as Rutland City School System, but they're also coming back and playing in our City Band on Sunday nights.
One of the other things maybe people don't realize, but you'd be in charge of this, are the upkeep of the parks. And I know you've got a crew that literally is out every day making sure things look good. Unfortunately, having to pick up people's stuff that was left behind, mowing the lawn, pruning the trees, whatever they do. How many parks do we have?
Oh boy, that's a stat that I am going to fumble over.
Well, but
roughly. So we have roughly, let's say, 10 to 12 parks that we are in charge of, are under our auspice. But then beyond that, our parks and ground staff also maintains other parks owned by the city or plots of land. So if you look at the space in front of the fire department, that is our guys taking care of that lawn. The space in front of the PD, that is our guys going out and taking care of that space. So yeah, they have a full slate every day of the week when it comes to grounds and facility upkeep, on top of our year-round facilities that we operate as well indoors.
And does that include the walk or the
bike path?
Yes. Behind the village snack bar.
Oh, so the creek path, yes, that goes from Georgetti all the way over, and it right now finishes on River Street, but they are currently working on segment 5, which would then connect it to the former College of St. Joseph, our current community center. So that is in the works, and they do maintain that space. And we always are really grateful for the folks who bring up that, this is an area I saw needs some help, because our guys are out everywhere, but they can't be there at all times. So if something happens in our parks, it's helpful for folks to let us know.
Are you ever looking for people to join the crew?
So currently we are fully staffed, which is incredible. We start our hiring back in the winter for our spring and summer crew. I am coming here from summer staff onboarding for all of our day camps. We've got our lifeguard camps set up, our lifeguards set up for training this Wednesday night. So currently we are not. But in the future, please, inquire about interest with working with our great team. And
you can just Google, I'm assuming, City of Rutland or Rutland City or whatever, and there's a link on there, right?
Absolutely. If you search for rutlandrec.com/employment, that will bring up any of our current employment opportunities.
Okay. Anything else you want to bring up? Because we've got about 5 minutes left. I've got the website up. So we got camps, classes, obviously Georgetti. There's no skating left, but there will be again next year. That curling club is a pretty amazing group that sort of appeared, I don't know, a dozen, well, maybe it's more than that, maybe 15, 20 years ago, because I was still on the radio here in the morning with Jack Healy when that started up. The community center, The Godnick Center, is that part of, part of your deal too?
The Godnick Center is a pretty active space up there. We do adult programming Monday through Friday. Their newsletter is really great. It's accurate month to month, gives you the full calendar of events. There's everything from exercise to meals to support groups, education opportunities. We even do free technology classes up there. So if you go to rutlandrec.com/Godnick, you'll be able to find all the updated information about the Godnick Center. And if you're just looking to visit the park itself, we did install a new accessible walking trail behind the building, which has been used quite heavily. And it's so great to see everyone out there walking that path, or little kiddos learning how to ride a bike on the path.
Yeah. I know from being up there with some veterans meetings, and it's also a polling place, so there are times when I have to engage myself in that direction as well as stand outside the polling place. You can see part of that path, and it really is a beautiful building. I think it was Gilly Godnick that was here, and it was named in his honor when he was the mayor. And so, yeah, that's one thing. But you must be pretty tired at the end of the week. It sounds like you've got a lot of stuff going on.
You could ask my husband. Yeah, no, I'm pretty exhausted, but I am so grateful, and I'm still excited every day that I go to work. I work with a wonderful team of driven professionals. It makes it enjoyable.
Well, good. And I hope, I don't pay city taxes. I'm in the town, but my backyard is the line between the town and the city, which is another reason I really enjoyed hearing that you and Mike Rowe are working so well together, and hopefully there'll be more projects coming up. I know we're at some point going to say goodbye in the city downtown to Walmart, and they're going to move up to what was the Diamond Run Mall. And I know there'll be some needed cooperation when that happens as well. But I hope, speaking of taxes, that everybody that's employed is happily employed, making enough money to get along with benefits that are commensurate with their workstation. And I know we've talked to the police chief. They're still a little bit under where they'd love to be. But, of course, anytime you add anything, the only way you either do two things in life. You either cut expenses or you add revenue, which is a secret word for taxes. And they don't want to do that every year either. So we, each year we go through the town meeting process, and we have a budget that's municipally divided, and then the school tax. And hopefully that's the other thing that we're going to be able to do here in the next few weeks in Montpelier is come up with a way to redo our educational system. Not saying that there'll be, no taxes anymore. That's probably impossible at this point. But it seems like there's got to be a more equitable way to ensure results that we all want, and yet not continue to pay, double digit more every year. Anyway, that's a political statement. I'm sorry I dragged you into that, April. But yeah, so hopefully everybody on your team is doing well, making enough money to get by, all that kind of stuff.
Our team seems good. And I would say we serve the community. So that is our mission here. And I would encourage folks to get out and visit those parks in our community, because they're such valuable assets, and those open spaces are free and open to the public. One of the gems of our city is Pine Hill Park, and that is maintained by our Trail Steward organization, Pine Hill Partnership. So if you were ever looking to, lend a hand or make a donation, they have the Tin Man right at that front entrance to Pine Hill Park. But it is a beautiful trail system with 16 miles of single track trail out there.
So we mentioned that you're all set with the team that you have in place for the summer in terms of employment. But can people volunteer? Can people do some stuff on their own to kind of help out?
Absolutely. So we do have inquiries of folks looking to volunteer with some of our events, like National Night Out. We'll also be looking for volunteer support. Those larger events are only possible because of the volunteer support that we're able to get. If you ever looking to support something that you're passionate about, so I mentioned the trails, they just had a work day. So they had folks who are interested in giving back to something that they're excited about. We also have folks who ask us about giving back to youth sports. Maybe they're really passionate about soccer. So they might reach out and say, hey, can I volunteer for this program? And we've had such great volunteers over the year due to their enthusiasm of their area of interest and their efforts when they show up.
You know, you mentioned the volunteer effort with big events. The Whoopie Pie Festival, which was for years on Center Street, this year can't be because of the construction that will be going on. But I'm pretty sure they've moved that to Merchants Row. So there still will be a Whoopie Pie Festival. We continue to hold, in my understanding, the world record, the Guinness Book of World Records, for the biggest whoopie pie. I don't know that we want to necessarily continue to break that record every year, but we hope that people show up. But that's a good example of something that Cedar, which is now the combination of the Chamber and the formerly the Economic Development arm, they can't pull that off probably by themselves. There just aren't enough paid employees to do it. So they reach out and get volunteers to do it as well. And, you know, Rutland's a pretty good place for that. If you ever get yourself in a peck of trouble on something, you know, I'm thinking of the blood drive, our Christmas fund here. It's a really different but wonderful place to live. And a lot of that is because people are willing to kind of roll their sleeves up and do what they can to help out.
So just as you were saying that, I was reminded that we do have a great event coming up this weekend on Saturday for those that are interested in track and field. So we've got this wonderful volunteer high school student, Amelia, who has reached out to us last year and then again this year to offer a track meet for the youth. So that is still taking registrations if folks were interested. It's a free event for our younger kiddos that are interested in running and track and field event. It's an opportunity for our high school track and field to give back to the community and raise some interest in that passion. So that would be Saturday, the 23rd. More information available on our Facebook page as well as our website.
Okay. Well, April, thank you so much for coming in. I know we're recording this on a Sunday, which is normally, hopefully, a day off for you, although you probably work 7 days a week. But it's always great to see you. And thank you for what you do for not just the city, but for the area, because a lot of people from the county depend on events that are happening within the city limits in order to work and enjoy life, generally speaking. So thank you for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, we'll see all of you next week here on Catamount Community Connection.